So when we're talking about breaking in to cybersecurity, if we can jump that direction, if you don't mind, the thing that I've always
Yeah,
observed
absolutely.
is that there's multiple disciplines in cybersecurity. An individual who wants to go into the field cannot just currently say, I want to be in cybersecurity. Okay. That's what I want to do. I have to have a little more than that. And I have to associate myself and all my work on my resume with one of the five. There's basically five disciplines inside cybersecurity itself, and begin to align myself. Now, complicating this even more currently, which is what I tell students, is basically the typologies of cybercrime itself have evolved dramatically. Okay. And if we take a moment and contemplate the five disciplines and then look at the typology of cybercrime itself and what those categories are related to the five disciplines, you begin to see how you can present yourself and how you can present your resume into the field to possibly have way more effect. And I've certainly witnessed this among both undergraduate and graduate students who've gone along with the program, sort of thing, if you would. So I'm not saying that I know the absolute key to breaking in, but it gives you an idea. So the five disciplines, there is security management, number one, okay, and administration. There's policy and policy management. So it's not all super technical per se. Policy management could be the development and drafting of the policies within a company and making certain they're effective and constantly updating them based on changes. There's audit, which includes all the penetration testing, software testing, audit for compliance, all of those wonderful things. There's something we call security operations, which is the operations center, which is looking at logs, which has a direct link to threat hunting and forensics largely, that says, I've got to go hunting for a threat. There is a threat. It's basically been manifested in my system here. Now I need forensics. Okay, is where we go. That would be security operations. And then there's this huge one called security engineering and architecture, which is, yes, that's the computer science one, if you would. Okay, that's the technical one that says, how do I actually engineer solutions to real world business problems that are actually secure? Okay, that's because frankly, most universities, mine included, they do teach some elements of secure coding, but they really don't heavily focus on it. They teach coding, they teach algorithm design, those types of things. Okay. And secure coding is something that just comes along as a bit of an afterthought. So that's actually a big field, if you would. So those are the five disciplines. Five. Okay. Now let's contemplate the impact of the changes of typology of cybercrime and how that's affecting each of those five. Your listeners, viewers, may have a focus in one of these five fields and say, that's good for me. I'm interested in that whole policy thing. Okay. If you now look at the typologies of cybercrime, you have the subject of computer hacking, which has been around for a while, by the way. There's nothing wondrously new about computer trespass and breaking into computer systems. Okay. You have malware and automated attacks, which are becoming a little bit enhanced right now, given artificial intelligence in areas like that. We have a classic area called piracy and intellectual property theft, which is still a significant problem. The theft of intellectual property is a huge issue for corporations, if you would, especially if they think it's defunct intellectual property. In one case I had, the company lost one of its designs for a medical device that had been approved and used for years, sold for years. They end of life the product, they chopped it off. The bad guys came in, and what they stole was all the old stuff, including all the certifications, everything else, and then they went to sell it. It was still had great value in another country. The problem was is they'd taken it off their list of actual intellectual property. So the corporation had a real problem in trying to investigate what actually happened, what actually got stolen, and whether or not they actually had value. It had huge value where it went. The next big one is fraud, which we talked a little bit about on the internet. Nobody knows your dog. Pornography and image-based abuse is becoming a much bigger issue. Now we're getting into deepfakes. Okay, you're getting into AI-generated images. How do you detect an AI-generated image? And even from a forensic standpoint, there's still papers being written on how we in forensics actually will go through and analyze these images to definitively say this was art AI generated or this is real, situation. There's child sexual exploitation offenses, which is massive, and we have a pretty good understanding of that. There's cyberbullying, harassment, and cyber stalking. Now, all of these have an impact. If I chose policy, I want to be a policy person. That sort of appeals to me. All of these have impacts on the policies and how you craft those and how you educate people with regards to these. Cyberbullying is a problem inside a corporation. Cyberbullying is a problem inside of a high school. Okay, harassment and cyber stalking are absolutely real. Extremism and cyber terror are absolutely real. We talk about grooming for child sexual exploitation. There's also grooming for extremism, basically. And a lot of the same games and tools and other things are used to try to recruit for these organizations. It is well documented that even Al Qaeda uses games to try to recruit like minded people, basically. There is warfare and intelligence operations. Now, a lot of companies will sit there and go, warfare, intelligence ops? Really? Do I get involved in this stuff? Yeah, I'm sorry, you actually do. Okay. You may have and be a third party to some other company that happens to be a defense contractor. And maybe you become that foothold as a heating and air conditioning company as to how they actually break into that other company and actually do the work. So you can have very sophisticated attack vectors in coming into those sorts of operations. Warfare and intelligence operations try to be very secretive. They try to hide. It's not unheard of to find multiple units inside of a victim company or machine because they tend to hide a lot. They don't tend to take aggressive activity unless they move into the warfare side of things where they want to break you. And then finally, there's illicit market operations as well, which we know as the darknet. All of those are different typologies of the category of cybercrime, and they have an impact on all five of the disciplines that you're going into. So I try to educate students right now to the fact that if you're going to go into one of these fields and you really want to go into one of the five disciplines, that you take a look at the subject of cybercrime and how the typologies work and how they impact the area that you're interested in getting into, if you would.